Matt Hatami, it is fantastic to see you. I am so honored to have you on. I call this the Talking Energy Show. That all came about because I host the Oilfield Tailgate, and I wanted to, find some way to, I don't know, put the people out there on some kind of podcast or some kind of, platform to say, hey, let me bring you on this little Talking Energy Show, and we'll support the Oilfield Tailgate that way. So it's been extremely fortunate for me that I meet so many people, and just to hopefully highlight all the good they bring to our industry, but just the world in general. I mean, you're an exceptional leader and a great mind in our industry, somebody that a lot of people look up to, and well deserved. You put a lot of heart and soul and effort and longevity in our industry so far. You've been impressive. You've got one book out that's very successful, another book out that we're going to hopefully make successful, and then maybe a third book coming. Please introduce yourself and tell everybody about you.
I'm Matthew Hatami. I'm an engineer with over 20 years of experience. I've worked at multiple companies, including Halliburton, Hess Corporation, Chesapeake, American Energy Partners. Recently, I worked with a team that put a project together, raised private equity capital, drilled wells, operated the asset, and then recently sold. I've been involved in evaluating deals, buying and selling assets. I've worked on everything from as a financial analyst in corporate strategy, working in Manhattan, to operating assets on the front lines of the business. I've spent a considerable amount of my career in the field, executing operations in the U.S. And overseas, primarily focused on shale. For the past year, I've been working on my new book, Shale Oil and Gas Operations, Maximize Cash Flow with Cost Reduction. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, wherever books are sold. Thank you, Matt, so much for having me on your show. I look forward to our discussion.
All right. Before we get any further, in case I lose anybody watching this, how do people find your book? I found it. I bought it yesterday on Amazon and read it on Kindle.
I think the best place to find it is on Amazon.
Good.
It's got a paperback hardcover and a Kindle right now, so it's just the easiest way to find.
You don't have a website for it yet?
No website. I don't want to deal with the logistics of it. It's better for Amazon to handle everything and for them to deal with it. So,
and remind everybody what your first book was.
My first book was Oilfield Survival Guide. I wrote that.
Great book.
Yeah. It's fairly well known. It's been out for almost 10 years. It's also available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and wherever books are sold.
Audiobooks for me was very helpful. Yeah. I truly enjoyed being able to drive down the road and hear your voice, giving your story with the inflection and the passion. That's a seller for me.
Thank you so much for the feedback, Matt, because I almost, was on the fence with the audiobook as to whether or not to do it, but I figured that it would add a lot of value because there's so much wheel time all of us have driving from different locations that it's a lot easier to consume books through audio.
No one loves hearing their own voice. It's brutal, but you made it through it, and everybody appreciates you for it.
Thank you so much.
All right. So I told you I was going to ask you, how did you even get into the energy industry?
Well, I'm originally from New York, and I went to school in West Virginia University, and I majored in petroleum and natural gas engineering. So that's how I got into it, and then went into the industry after college.
Did you know people? I mean, we're constantly thinking about our future generations and how we get them into our industry. So being from New York, going into that, I mean, there had to have been somebody that said, "Hey, would you consider going, this route?"
Not
It's
not
somebody
really.
grabbed.
Like I did not know anybody. And when I was 17, 18 years old, it's, you're trying to make a decision on what you want to do. And I was leaning towards engineering. It was going to be business or engineering. I decided to go with engineering. And then at that point, I was just looking for an exciting career, something that would be fun. Um, I was interested in traveling, seeing different things, working within different disciplines. So I narrowed it down to aerospace engineering or energy, petroleum. And I decided to go with petroleum because I thought there would be more opportunities and it had a global presence. So that was exciting to an 18-year-old kid who sees oil and gas operations all over the world. But I didn't know anybody in the business. I just made a decision at a young age to pursue a career in the oil industry.
Did you finish in 4 years?
I did. Yeah.
There you go. What was your first experience in the workforce of what we do?
I started my career at Halliburton in the Permian Basin, in working in southeast New Mexico in a small town at the time called Hobbs, New Mexico. That
Yeah, it's
was
not so small anymore. I was
that's
just
right.
there yesterday, day before. Yeah.
I started there in 2000. I think it was June of 2000. It's over almost 25 years ago.
Wow. That goes so fast. I mean, I think you were on my radar 10 years ago. So I caught you about halfway through. All right. So I want to make sure, and I know so many people that have your first book, but just go over that just a little bit with everybody, because for those that don't have his first book, please go out and grab it too. But I felt like it was not just an oil and gas survival guide, but a really good leadership book as well. You really put a lot of thought and effort into safety culture, operations, good things, bad things, but really how to lead your team and other teams to successful projects.
Absolutely. Thank you for that positive feedback. That book, it took years to put it together because of the amount of research that went into it. A lot of the cases, I had to file Freedom of Information Act requests with different agencies and states, which took a very long time to get the information, which was not available anywhere prior to me publishing it in the book. One of the reasons why I put that book together is everywhere that I've worked, whether it was in New Mexico, Texas, Permian Basin, overseas, at multiple companies, from the super majors to small mom and pops in the Permian Basin, I saw very similar mistakes being made over and over again. The same stuff. The same stuff that goes wrong in Hobbs, New Mexico, goes wrong in North Africa or in Australia or offshore. And the mistakes I was seeing and experiencing them being repeated, and they're very painful financially, sometimes physically. And so I thought, what could I potentially do to minimize these mistakes from repeating and putting people through those situations. And I love books, so I always wanted to write one, and that was the start of Oilfield Survival Guide and putting it together. A lot of the information in the book, what I found through the Freedom of Information Act request process, is that at the time I was requesting a lot of the data on over 1,000 cases. I got feedback from different government agencies thanking me for requesting this information because it was in the process of being destroyed. So at the time, they had a Bureaucracy Reduction Act, and anything that was on physical paper to reduce the storage costs, and dealing with it was going to be destroyed. And there was no digital copies of any of the stuff. So by requesting it, distilling it, taking a 500-page report and putting it down into one paragraph and then putting it in the book, was how I was able to capture a lot of information, statistics, and other things that was in the process of being destroyed by the government, as part of their like protocol. So
yeah, I mean, I understand. I mean, if no one from our industry is going to utilize it, then why keep it? It's just government waste. If we looked at it, it would have been lost. So thank you for doing that. What a great gift that really was for you to go out and find all that data.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
All right. So your process, I mean, links, you're busy with that. You got the book going on. You guys did well with your company, and you get a little bit of time and you say, hey, I've got a great idea. And you did go find some time to put this second book into place. Thank goodness. I was really, I'm not going to go out and start an oil and gas company. I love the service side. I love the safety side, but just from my own experiences, I could get into your second book. I really, if I wouldn't have fell asleep last night in the middle of the night, I may have got through the whole thing.
Wow, that's impressive.
I should have got through more of it, but I did find myself enthralled in it. It's a good story, and for those of us in our industry, I just really love the way we can all work together to make everybody successful, from the operator to the vendors and the investors. And truly, I spoke about this yesterday, that the whole world benefits when we're successful.
Absolutely. And that last statement is one of the primary reasons that I took, the past year and focused all of my effort to writing this book. 100% of every single day for over the past year, I've been focused on the book. And having the lowest costs is very powerful, not just for a company, but for our industry, the country, and the world. The economy is energy. And so the lowest cost operator has a tremendous competitive advantage. If your costs are lower than your competitor, their assets become much more valuable under your control. So if you have the lowest cost, you have a lot of freedom. Your team has a lot of freedom. If you want to try a new technology, you have the capital to do so. If you want to install some additional risk management assets on your facility, for example, you have the capital to do that. You can expand, you can drill, because you have the additional cash flow. It's not just between companies, but it's also competing with different forms of energy. Other industries that we're in competition with are working fiercely on reducing their costs. Therefore, in order to stay viable, we must be aggressive at reducing our costs, because we're not just competing with another company in the basin, we're competing with other forms of energy. But we're also competing with other governments and countries. And this was another main motivation for the book, is our democracy in the United States works well because we have access to low-cost energy. Imagine a situation where we were depending on an adversary. It would not be a good situation. The other dynamic that's happened in the past year is inflation. It's impacted everyone. Everyone has felt, including myself, the pain of inflation. And so we hear about lower oil and gas prices can help mitigate it, but how do you actually do that? It's on the news every single day, but how do you actually do it? How do you lower oil and gas costs so the prices can come down? And that was another main motivating factor for writing the book. And then another dynamic that I did a ton of research on this, another dynamic that was motivating me to put this book out as soon as possible is, if you study global conflicts, very often at the core are access to resources. They don't like to talk about it, but very often wars start because different countries want access to resources, particularly low-cost resources. So if we work to reduce the cost of oil and gas, we also reduce the risk of global conflicts and wars. And for all those reasons, I decided to focus all my energy and trying to get this book out as fast as possible.
I really enjoyed. I mean, if you, and I know when I get to the end, I'll have a lot bigger perspective and understanding, but just the fact that lower oil prices for us here in America, everybody at home, if I have cheaper, more abundant energy, that doesn't necessarily mean at all that our oil companies are not profitable. They can do very, very well. And, granularly, the way I see it through your book is they might be considerably more profitable by reducing costs. I mean, your story about, hey, if I take this $50 and I reduce the cost on this production site, and then I repeat that, and then I stack those on every site, and then I stack that over the course of 20 years, that $50 savings stacked upon stack, and grown out, that's hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. The most powerful force in finance is compounding. So you find a small cost reduction opportunity, and you scale it across all the wells, all your facilities, and you then invest the proceeds in high return assets over time, and those investments compound. And as you said, a $50 investment, and I go through it in detail in the book, and easily turn into $100 million. A $50 cost savings can easily turn into hundreds of millions of dollars.
Another thing in your book, again, you drop these hints of wisdom and leadership in there on your ability to see the value in your people, because you cannot get those numbers without the right people in the right place, and how critical it is that your team understands the mission and continues it every single day at their own peak performance. And you have backup. Hey, not everybody can operate at 100% all the time, but then you bring AI into the focus as well. And okay, we're all talking about it. What does that mean? And you've really, opened up, a lot of really great information on what that means for the operator and the vendors to utilize that type of learning system to ensure that, hey, if I miss something, that system's there to go, hey, don't forget about this. You're virtual company, yep. Man, you're virtual, make me virtual and be a backup. It doesn't mean, hey, I'm not valuable anymore. It just means, hey, what if I made you and made the best version of you, and you're available to everyone at all the times, and any of your knowledge can be available, because like you said in one of your stories, something over here happened and the right person wasn't there, and there was somebody over siloed off that could have fixed that situation quickly and affordably.
Yeah, absolutely. The power of artificial intelligence is huge from a risk management and cash flow and cost reduction potential. So throughout the book, I intertwine AI into how it can help us reduce cost, reduce risk. And I think it's a huge opportunity. It's not going to, in my opinion, remove jobs. It probably is going to create jobs, because all the technology that you need to make it work, you have to hire even more people. But if there's value there, then it's absolutely worth it. And I go through that in detail And as you said, throughout the book, we develop what I call a virtual company man. So it's essentially a digital super assistant of the well site leader to assist in operating, making decisions, preventing mistakes, identifying cash flow opportunities, cost reduction opportunities. I think AI, as we've seen here recently in the past week or so, it has tremendous potential for our industry to continue to be a leader in providing energy to the world, in incorporating AI. You look at the deep seek situation. It's all cost reduction, right? They were able to put something out there at a fraction of the cost as what other companies have spent, and now it's disrupting the entire space. So there's just a lot of opportunity to incorporate those technologies into our industry.
I'm already I'm ready to start a lot more courses on AI. I play with it and I make memes most of the time with it. And then here you are revolutionizing our industry, and like, I'm so impressed by all of that. I'm just fascinated. Your book just makes me want to deep dive on every possibility to reduce costs within my own organization. And really, at the heart of it, you take that and you put it back into the best possible thing of your company, which gives you more return on your investment. It just keeps growing and growing and growing your return on investment to your, whether it be the single owner or the group of investors that have, participated with you to do it. And then they get excited and they want to do more. And then all of a sudden we're building more teams for more energy. I mean, it's a book about getting you excited about, joining your team in an effort to make everybody better.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because cost reduction, what I've noticed throughout my career is most people don't like to do it. So I try to put together a system and a process and a plan within the book to make it fun to engage in, so that more people would embrace it. But historically, most people do not like to do cost reduction. And throughout my research, I found that our industry is not unique in that respect. It's an issue across all industries. Not a lot of people enjoy cost reduction, but that provides an opportunity, because if you enjoy it, then you have an advantage over your competitors. In every aspect, from the services side to the operator side. If you embrace cost reduction, you immediately have a competitive advantage, because most people are not really interested in it.
Yeah, we've done it the same way for this long, and it's always worked. And don't worry about the cost, because we know how to do it this way.
Exactly. Yep.
And they're losing out on the opportunity to really impact their growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, if you're watching this, stick with the this thread. But I'm telling you, read this book. You look at his numbers and the charts and the graphs, and you're like, it really makes this pop, and go, oh, I get it now. And you get excited. Like, in a million years, I wouldn't have thought that cost reduction would be an exciting, thought. And I know it says for, the shale on your book, but anybody, any industry, you really need to read this, because this hits home with whatever you're doing. And honestly, this hits home for me in my own budget. If you want to, look out and break just this information and knowledge out of that silo.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the stuff in the book, it can be used for other industries. Of course, it's really focused on oil and gas, because some of the stuff gets very technical, and there's over 700 actions to reduce cost in the book. And some of them are tried and true methods. Others are very aggressive, and a lot of people most likely have never seen many of them.
All
Which
right. I don't love giving spoilers, but what do you think is the most aggressive way to reduce costs?
it's a good question. I think it depends on the individual operator and what they're engaged in. Um, So, it's just that every situation is different. What might be aggressive for one operator, another operator might be executing on a daily basis. So, I would not expect uh, somebody to implement every single action in the book, nor would I recommend it. I do not recommend that. That is not
Yeah,
a good idea.
everybody watching this, you should read all of the fine print at the front of the book. He's like, hey, you can try any of this. If it doesn't work, it's not my fault.
Yeah, it's just you want to do a lot of risk analysis. The foundation for cost reduction is risk management. You must manage the risk and prevent the mistakes because if you do not, it does not matter how much you reduce the costs if you're having train wrecks every other week. It's, you can have an AFE that says your well is, the total cost is $3 million, but every few weeks there's a multi-million-dollar accident. It's irrelevant, right? So from that perspective, I'd rather have a stable, predictable cost than a lower cost. So in the book, I set the stage by talking a lot about implementing systems, automating, establishing risk management processes. Like, what can we do to control the risk, and then from that point forward, start getting aggressive on the cost reduction. Because one of the things that can happen is if you aggressively go after costs without addressing the risk, you may have some unintended consequences. So you want
to more risk.
That's right. Like more risk that you don't know is there. For example, just recently, unfortunately, there was a midair collision between an American Airlines passenger jet, commercial jet, and a Black Hawk helicopter. Apparently, there were many near misses with similar situations in the recent past that were not addressed. So, like, how many near misses is a huge opportunity to manage risk and reduce cost over the long term. But very often we do not do a good job documenting the near misses and what's happening out there. So that's definitely one thing you want to look at. You want to get a full understanding of what's going on the front lines of the business before engaging in an aggressive cost reduction effort. And sometimes before you push the cost down, you may have to increase them in order to, strengthen your operation. So sometimes if there's some unaddressed risk, we may have to increase the cost initially to get it down aggressively later on. So, one of the principles in the book that I talk about is creating exponential value, which takes many years. The cost reduction should not take many years, but creating value, massive value, let's say like 100x value for your company, will take many years. So we want to get the cost down, but we don't want to expose ourselves to some type of risk that's going to get us a few years or from now that we overlooked. So
you did show throughout the book over and over again that 100x is something really you should aspire to and make it a goal. And
absolutely,
if I'm going to be a 100x company, and here's how I do it. There's going to be some bumps, and there's going to be some bruises, but you just stay on that path and don't get off of it. One of the stories I enjoyed in the book, and you told me it was at the front, so that helped me. But essentially a butterfly effect. There's a pumper. He's tired. He has a dinner to attend. He needs to go out and fix some equipment, and probably knows it. He doesn't know the risk that's out there that's to come, but he goes ahead and heads to the house and heads for that dinner. Well, lo and behold, a fire ensues. It's a huge cost for the operator, but that cost made the investor in New York really skittish. And then over the course of a short time, he devalues that investment in his mind and gets rid of all of his investment of that company. And then people that know him take a lot of notice of that and like, what's going on? Why did that entity over there get rid of that? And then they all dump it too. And then that company is really affected. So that 100x number, to grow it may take 20 years, but the catastrophic effects of not covering your risk can take, what'd you say, moments? I mean, it could be seconds.
Seconds.
Yeah, seconds, and you don't have the same company anymore.
That's right. The downside risk, based on experience and research, and as you know as well, it's very violent and it's unforgiving, and it can happen
violent and unforgiving. Yeah, that stuck with me. Violent and unforgiving.
I also go through a number of examples from other industries that we're investing in a technology or taking some type of action or not taking some type of action, and their company was destroyed in a very short period of time. It might have taken 30 years to build a company, and then through a series of poor risk management decisions, and I go through a lot of examples in the book, detailed examples, that company was destroyed in the matter of like 45 minutes, a couple hours. There's even cases I talk about with the whole planet. Our entire planet was almost destroyed multiple times due to a series of very small errors with our nuclear weapons that were, traced back to a small chip that had an error or a process that was not robust. So,
I've read stories about submarine commanders out in the middle of the ocean with orders to fire, on each other and send the world into a whole different level of what we're experiencing today, thriving. And it was really it came down to the person's knowledge and wisdom and insight and experience to not pull the trigger on those events.
Absolutely. The most important aspect of any operation is the people. Do you have great people around you? And that for every oil company, particularly the service providers, do you have people that when you're in trouble and you call, they answer with solutions? That's one of the biggest factors in being able to have a consistent, low risk, low cost operation is who you partner with on the services side. A lot of operators don't fully understand that dynamic. And I talk about it in the book, you don't always want to choose the lowest cost service provider. That is not what I'm suggesting. I would never suggest that. I go through different ways to who is actually the lowest cost. You don't actually know. And the bid price, and I there's a lot of examples of it, we've all seen it, is not necessarily what the actual full price is. So I think a lot of people make the mistake during service provider selection just to choose either the low bid or somebody they have a relationship with, which isn't always the best approach.
That's common sense stuff that we should all really grapple with. It's like, say it's a tank battery, I go with the cheapest, and that tank battery fails down the road because they were poorly made and the wrong kind of steel and different parts, don't fit like they should, yada, yada, yada. You got yourself a heck of a deal right that second. And then so fast, that was wrong. You use the wrong, you use the cheapest mud program, and all of a sudden you're, stuck in the hole all the time. Use the cheapest trucking and, to get your oil pumped off. You use the cheapest refiner. I grapple with that all the time, but at the end of the day, you got me thinking quite a bit yesterday, and I always appreciate our conversations. Our industry, and this isn't necessarily not already put into book 1, book 2, possibly book 3 in the future, but our industry is not just oil and gas. It's really truly energy, but also the solution industry. There's no problem in the world that the people that you and I know can't figure out a way to solve.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Every problem has a solution, and that's the way that I look at it. So, and one of the things you want to do is when you do find a solution is document it and share it with other people on your team so that in the future, when a similar situation presents itself, you don't have to go through the entire process again, which is unfortunately often the case. And one of the things I suggest in the book is to each entity have its own individual, what I call solutions book. Here's a book of all the recent problems that we've had and the solutions that have worked for us to solve those problems. This way that institutional knowledge is captured and doesn't leave when somebody leaves the company or moves on, which is often the case. Particularly people in the field, because a lot of the services side, there's very high turnover, and a lot of that knowledge that's gained leaves when the person leaves, unbeknownst to the operator. So as the operator, you want to manage that process as best you can. You obviously don't want to micromanage your service providers, but you want to get some of the knowledge that was gained when they were working on your assets. You want to capture that so you have it for the future to help reduce costs, reduce risk.
Well, I don't want to keep you for too much longer. I know you're taking care of a lot these days and got a lot to do, but I wanted, to get with you and pray that I can get, everybody that I know to go out and buy this book and buy lots of them and share them with everybody, including your first book. I mean, to me, they're not too separate from each other. I mean, they could be sequels essentially.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. I mean, they could be. I mean, they're different topics. This one's more about focused on money, cash flow, economics. But I wrote this book from the perspective of the CEO or the owner to maximize cash flow. And it's designed to be handed out to every single employee from all across the office, all the executives, to everybody on the front lines, including all the service providers, contractors, subcontractors. That is how I structured the book. It's not just for executives. I think the title and so on, it might come across as an executive level book, but it's really written for the entire team, from the guys working on the rigs, on the frac crews in the field, production, all the way through to everybody in the office. And so I hope it's received that way, because that was how it was intended to be put out.
well, I'm your friend, so but I promise you, I'd tell you if I saw any glitches in it. And I enjoy it. I'm excited to finish it today, and yeah, you do. It's your voice for sure, and your sentiment and your heart in it, and you can tell just how passionate you are about our industry and supporting it and leading it and continuing to carry it as far as you can and looking for other people to do so. I know, Matt Hatami is truly, watch this, follow him and reach out to him, see, about getting copies for yourself, everybody, and enjoy it and, enjoy, the opportunities we have every single day to find people in our industry and share their stories and support each other. What you all are doing is vital and critical to our world to support freedom and democracy and health and, a better environment. There's nothing we don't touch at all in this world, not even a little bit.
Absolutely agree 100%.
Matt, I pray you are thriving. Looking forward to the next opportunity I get to speak with you. And we'll catch up as often as you want. Thank you for doing this. This is your first podcast, and I know it had to be with me. Sorry, sucker.
Thank you so much. This is my first podcast, and I've enjoyed it. And you're doing a great job. I watch all your shows, all your interviews, and I really appreciate everything that you're doing for the industry.
I'm blessed. God's good to me. You got any dad jokes for me?
No.
Well, next time you have to have dad jokes. Okay, you got a great sense of humor too. You've been in the industry this long. You've taken enough licks where you're stoic, even in the darkest of times.
That's right. Yeah. I try to include a little bit of humor inside of the stories in the book. If it's subtle, but if you read carefully, you should be able to pick it up.
Yeah, there's so much. I'm like, man, I don't want to give too much away. I want people to go out and get it, but we gave it a best shot today to get people interested. Well, you take care, man. We'll see you soon. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Support your neighbors and your friends, and get everybody you can into oil and gas and all the great things you can do. We're not going away. We're going to add jobs. We're going to be around forever. Sky's the limit, and we hope to see you soon. Follow it. You can go to the talkingenergyshow.com. You can go to oilfieldtailgate.com. And, Matt, one more thing. Show that book one more time. There we go. And the name?
Shale Oil and Gas Operations, Maximize Cash Flow with Cost Reduction. Available wherever books are sold. Check it out on Amazon. It's you'll love it. I guarantee you will love this book.
I agree. All right, everybody. You take care. God bless you. Bye.